Oh, Goose gets the first one.
My dreams.
Goose, where are we going?
Oh, he's just taken out 4 people.
Yeah! Knocked him off his horse.
Oh! A man comes around the side with the tomahawk.
A brief history lesson for those who aren't familiar. The War of the Roses was a battle for the throne of England that occurred between 2 rival branches of the royal house of Plantagenet, and it lasted for about 30 years or so on and off. It gets its name because each house's respective heraldic symbol was indeed a rose. A red rose for Lancaster and a white rose for York.
This is a multiplayer-only game, but there are some battle simulations you can play out that give you a bit of history about specific battles in the War of the Roses.
King Edward IV had been forced to flee the country when the Earl of Warwick wrested control over England.
But also acts as a bit of a tutorial for the weapons and soldiers. They also give you a nice look around the maps, but that AI is non-existent.
You gonna help out, or you just gonna? I can just do it if you want. No, I'll just take care of it. You guys just chill.
Yes, but first things first. You can get started on designing your very own crest, which has a wonderfully diverse range of options. Then you're thrown into the melee. Each class of soldier has to be unlocked, and eventually you get custom classes. So you begin life merely as a lowly foot soldier with a sword and shield. This means that early on you may find yourself getting pulverized more often than not by heavily armored dudes, knights on horseback, and keen-eyed archers.
Yeah, those starter classes are tough going, aren't they? The combat here might remind you of a game from a while back called Mount and Blade, where you use the mouse to aim the direction of which way you want to swing your attack and also to block.
At first glance, the animations do look a little bit awkward, kind of like a field of running thunderbirds with their swords raised.
Yeah, but I think if they were any more fluid, you wouldn't get that wonderful telegraphing, which is so important for blocking and attacking. The controls are remarkably intuitive once you get the hang of it, and everything just works like you might expect it to in a real battle.
Charge.
If you swing with a giant sword in a small corridor, it's going to hit the walls like in a Souls game.
Ooh. Oh,
I switched to my smaller weapon.
I can see that.
If you're a light armor-wearing archer facing off with a plate-wearing axe-spamming knight, you want to pull out your dagger and hug their body so the handle of their axe hits you rather than the head of the axe hitting your face.
Oh,
That was brutal.
I found this rigid, realistic-ish strategic combat so thrilling, Hex.
This is a game that was made by a team of 13 as well, so it's impressive just how well everything works. There are 2 game modes, Team Deathmatch and Conquest. The first time you step out onto the battlefield, it is super intimidating. 2 teams of up to 32 a side will go to war on each map, and as soon as you spawn, the charge rushes forward. It's heart-pumping stuff. Horses charging past you, knights with great swords raised. Goose, you look awesome.
I don't know where to go.
Then, when you spot the first sign of the enemy, it's game on.
Yeah, it's certainly spectacular seeing 64 players all just bashing it out in one zone. Also, this is one of those games which is perfect for online grade A shenanigans.
I'm gonna make it embarrassing and pull out my little dagger.
Do it. Dagger party.
That was me!
Oh, you got him!
Yeah.
Hex got him.
Oh, free horse. I don't know what I'm doing.
Come on. Oh, I just pushed him off the edge!
Excuse me, sir.
Hello.
How do you do today?
How are you?
I'm stuck behind him. Oh, no, I can't do it. Bring me back. Oh no, quick, what are you doing? This is so dangerous.
He took an arrow in the ass, man. Give him a break.
What was that, Hex? What did you just say?
Stop it, don't. Yeah, your shenanigans are great and everything, but I always get distracted by your crapping around, and then I'm the one that gets killed.
I'm in front of you.
Wait, that's awesome.
Oh, behind you!
Once you've got a bit of gold and XP up your sleeve, you can start unlocking perks and getting into the customization, and that's really where the game starts. It's daunting at first, as it's quite a deep system, but it's all about the perks really and how they complement how you want to play. There's lots of interrupts and passive abilities, and it all depends if you want to go two-handed or go on horseback or use a sword and a shield. But my personal favorite is when you can see if someone is bleeding or not.
When you heal, Goose, when you heal.
Because if they can't get a bandage in time, then it's already over and you can start playing a defensive game or push them into a corner.
Okay, just block him in.
There's so much strategy in every part of this game, and I just love having so much to unlock.
And the armor looks so good too, doesn't it? And if you see someone who just looks freaking awesome, generally you can tell they've played quite a bit and they're probably going to outplay you a little bit, and you'll start to make an enemy of them that you'll seek out each round or run away from. Predictably, I loved using bows the most. Longbow archers perched on the rooftops or hidden amongst the trees are a really cool sight, and they can send arrows flying across tremendous distances. But they're hefty bows. You need to be able to line up your shot quickly or your arm will start to quiver. For me though, it was actually the crossbow that I found the most fun to use. Finding a clever hiding spot that's, away from the fray but with a good line of sight to your opponents makes you a deadly assassin on the battlefield. A well-placed bolt can be an instant kill.
Headshot.
The trade-off, they are painfully slow to load.
Yeah, I struggled a bit with the crossbow, but I did like the minigame that you can use to speed up your reload or slow it down if you fail.
Yeah, and if you think about it, in a stressful battle situation, you would be sweating and fumbling a little bit trying to get those arrows loaded, so I thought it was a really great way to represent that. It's particularly stressful when a shot gives you away and you're spotted and there's a heavily armored guy coming towards you. Your puny sword is no match against his armor and heavy weapons, so your only hope is to perhaps get a bolt loaded before... Nah.
I like the trade-off when you decide to go ranged because you're so vulnerable when you're zoomed in like that.
Yeah, but if you get a good spot, particularly on a rooftop somewhere, you can take out like 5 dudes in a few seconds, in quick succession. So you almost have to take those kills when you can get them and accept death when it comes.
One of my favorite parts of this game is when you get hit with an arrow, you can tell where the archer is based on where the arrow lands in your body. So quite often I'll get hit in the side of the head, I'll be like, aha! Let's do this. Once down, a player has about 5 seconds before they can yield and respawn. And in that time, if you can get to them and perform an execution, it means a bunch more XP and gold for you, and also they can't be revived. Being on the receiving end of one of these executions is completely demoralizing.
Yes, but never fail to satisfy when performing one yourself. They are brutal though. That dagger one is particularly intense. That last stab is a bit of overkill.
Yeah, and the way it cuts to your first-person perspective when you're getting executed, it's intense, isn't it?
There's so much to think about on the field too, particularly with the environmental changes that come with each map. On certain maps with open fields, there's not a lot of cover, and often what little cover there was would already be occupied by, a whole group of other nervous archers.
My turn.
I love seeing the horses out there in the field, Hex. They look so good, and sometimes they just come out of nowhere.
Oh!
What?
Oh!
It does suck when one side has a bunch of horses and the other doesn't, though. It just feels a bit imbalanced, particularly in Conquest.
Yeah, but it's certainly not easy riding a horse, and you do have to give up some perks to do so. And I just love those moments when you're in a field and there's a horse coming towards you and you've got your weapon ready and it's like...
Staring him down.
Through the water.
Da, 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 da. Oh!
They don't always go well.
Oh, that did not go well.
There's also an interesting trade-off with armor choices. Weight is really important. Longbow archers, for example, can be a formidable foe if you armor them heavily.
Oh, I
But
got him.
then just drawing an arrow is really slow, and quick draw is important with them because it takes quite a few shots to take an enemy down as opposed to a crossbow bolt. Games based around a historical setting like this often have such a bland approach to battle, but I did not expect to have this much fun. It's brilliant and comical, but also just really well thought out in its approach to medieval combat, with a strong attention to detail and a focus on realism in the terms of the way each weapon is handled. It also seems to really reward skill, particularly in melee combat, which is excellent. Best of all though, it's a game that so accurately captures the chaos that comes with this kind of battle.
Not where I want to be.
And it's an experience that's worlds apart from any multiplayer shooter session.
Yeah, and those one-on-one standoff moments where you both stare each other down, knowing only one of you is going to come out alive, have such an intensity to them.
Yeah, see, I loved witnessing those moments from afar and then snatching the kill.
Battle.
Yes, but we all know that sort of thing just incites revenge, Hex.
Oh, Barjo stabbing me in the face.
Yes, don't I know it. The game has a few bugs and crashes randomly, but they're always patching it, and if our experience with DayZ has taught us anything, it's that if the game is good enough, we'll push through any and all technical glitches just to get another round in.
Text is loco.
You're my target.
Oh my god.
Oh, you're flying. Oh,
Goose, where are you going? Goose, come back! No, Goose! That's not the way!
Plus, there's plenty of Aussie servers too.
Hex, I feel like I've been waiting for this game for a long, long time. I haven't had this much medieval bashing fun since the days of Rune. It just ticks all the right boxes for me. It's community focus, it rewards teamwork, there's rich strategy, and leaderboards coming too, apparently.
It would have been nice to have a few more game modes. The devs said they are working on a castle siege mode and supposedly monthly content updates as well. I also thought it would have been cool to have at least the option for some kind of last man standing mode where, you know, like a real war where the enemies don't respawn. But nevertheless, I had a marvelous time with this. You know, I just can't stop playing it. I'm giving it 8 out of 10.
Medieval teabagging, what more could you want? I'm giving it 8.5 out of 10.
And a teabag.
And a little. Oh no!